Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first meeting of 2022. Mr. Snyder, may I please have roll call?
Testing. It is a new year. Very good. Testing, testing. Mr. Finaro. Here. Mr. Friel. Here. Ms. Grosset.
Here.
Mr. Hess. Here. Mr. Tressi. Here.
And this evening, we have a very special student, Ms. Kylie Cornelius, if you would come and help us do the Pledge of Allegiance. Kylie, sorry.
1, 2, testing 1, 2.
Kaylee, I have too many Kylies, Kyles, and whatnot, sorry.
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry, we have something else first, right? Yes.
Kaylee's a sport. Don't worry about it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. The month of January marks Board Appreciation Month. And so tonight, we will be demonstrating our appreciation for our Board of Education. I've said on a number of occasions that one of the common characteristics of good, effective, highly functional organizations is sustained leadership. And this board has done so for the Mayfield City Schools for quite some time. This board continues to put students first and support staff in every endeavor to help students realize their potential. So on behalf of the administration, faculty, and staff, we salute you tonight. We have a video for you and some gifts as well. But first, Mrs. Euler's going to cue up the video celebrating our board and recognizing your greatness. Thank you.
Mayfield means having a place to grow, belong, and learn, and a school like this is a home away from home.
You always feel like you belong to a community, and I feel like the Board of Education is a really big part of that.
We talk about the Mayfield family all the time, and that's not a cliche, it's sincere. I think about this community and how we always rally, behind one another, to support one another. And the level of pride that people have when you mention Mayfield, I have that.
Here at Mayfield, we really are a family, and I feel like it's a place where everyone is there for one another. We really put a lot of emphasis into coming together as one. I've been in this district now for 13 years, the senior in high school. I went to center in the middle school, and now in high school. And I can just say that I don't think there could be any better district for all those 13 years. There's just no better place to feel like you belong and feel connected to others, and to really just learn and have the opportunity to become who you want to be.
Mayfield is a very welcoming place, and it's just a very diverse environment with many different people, and I think that's very important, and it's very special to me.
What sets Mayfield apart from other districts, and also some other districts, is the opportunities that they give the staff and the students, whether it's traveling or all-access learning. We truly give students opportunities to augment their learning on a daily basis.
Mayfield just provides so many opportunities inside and outside the classroom.
Whether it's clubs or sports or any activities at all.
Everything about Mayfield just sets it apart from many other schools. And none of that would be possible without the Mayfield Board of Education.
To all the members of the school board, our heartfelt thank you. You've kept us afloat. The students and staff members are blessed because of your hard work and dedication, and we just thank you so much for all that you do for us.
As a parent and a teacher having a different viewpoint than a lot, I think you see everything that is in place to help kids, and I think having that part of people from the top down, from the school board down, with kids in mind, I think that's huge, and I think that's why I've been part of it for so long. Our school board, we're really lucky, we're blessed. Our school board always puts our students and the community first. They don't have any specific agendas other than they want what's best for our kids. And you can see that through our facilities, through the type of instruction, through the opportunities that we provide our kids, not only to be better academically, but just to be, better all around and just to help develop a well-rounded person.
So Dr. Barnes has asked me to say a couple of words, and normally I'm better versed with spreadsheets, numbers, and graphs, but certainly would like to also echo Mr. Ligon's statements. This is my 16th year in the district. This is my 5th district overall. This is my 26th year in education. And Mayfield, this Board of Education, the past and present, has always put kids first, has always put the community first, and has always, as a former Rotarian, service above self. You guys have always served, and I think in this environment today, for those of you that ran again, for those of you that ran for the first time, and for those of you that are completing your 6th term or entering your 6th term or in the middle of your 6th term, it says a lot about, I guess, the longevity, the view, and what it means to be Mayfield. It's a community, it's a family. I'm not Italian, or Italian, as I like to tell Mr. Tressi, but I feel like I'm an honorary Mayfieldian, if that's a word, and I'm very honored and privileged to work with the 5 of you and all those that have, your predecessors as well. So thank you for all that you do. I think it's truly a tremendous cause and calling, and I salute all 5 of you. And on that note, thank you.
In front of you, you have gifts that have been prepared by students, and they have nice bow ties on them. They wrote you some notes to demonstrate their appreciation, and on behalf of the administration and staff.
Thank you.
We also have a gift for you all, again, just to show our appreciation for the hard work that you do. Thank you again, and go Wildcats.
Go Wildcats.
Well, thank you all, and I will say, and I think I speak for all of us, we couldn't do it without all of you. So thank you all for your support, administration, community, students, one and all. It's a team. Okay, so that moves us to our Student of the Month. Ms. Kaylee, you'll come back up, sorry. Come on back up.
All right, Ms. Cornelius, you ready? Okay, I'm going to have you hold on to this, okay? The Mayfield City School District and Mayfield Board of Education present this proclamation to Kaylee Cornelius, Student of the Month from Mayfield High School. Whereas Kaylee Cornelius is a senior at Mayfield High School who is not only an exceptional student, but a remarkable person who shares her kind and caring spirit to help others and brighten each day with their smile, sense of humor, and positive disposition. Teachers describe Kaylee as hardworking, fun, pleasant, friendly, intelligent, resilient, diligent, prepared, modest, creative, humorous, empathetic, and always willing to assist classmates. And whereas Kaylee is a highly respected young woman who leads with moral character and has developed a relentless drive for success. This success is apparent by her 4.5383 GPA, and in her rigorous and diverse course selections. Kaylee has taken over 20 honors, advanced placement, and college credit plus courses throughout her academic career. Because of her academic success and unrelenting pursuit for excellence, Kaylee has been recognized through College Board's National African American Recognition Program, a member of the Principals List, a member of National Honor Society, and an Avis Award winner for her positivity, drive, and determination. And I have more. And whereas Kaylee is a dedicated and determined student. For example, she moved from Spanish 1 to Spanish 3 to become fluent in the language. She worked countless hours and attended extra help sessions with Spanish teacher, Mr. Turk, who says, Kaylee has figured out at a young age that success in life is achieved through daily dedication to being your best. And whereas what separates her from her peers is how she treats others when no one is looking. She is genuine, kind, and empathetic. She cares deeply for others and would give anyone the shirt off her back. Her character is unmatched, and everything she does in life is done with integrity. And whereas Kaylee has grown through her struggles and triumphs over the years to become the exceptional young woman she is today, she will go on to do great things, continue her positive influence on others, and carry the Mayfield pride with her, always a Wildcat. Now therefore be resolved on behalf of all the members of the Mayfield school community, Kaylee Cornelius is named the Mayfield Board of Education Student of the Month for Mayfield High School on this day, January 19, 2022.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Still need your photo. Take your mask down just for a sec. Thank you. And then Dr. Barnes. Jeff, you want to get in here? All right. Board members?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. There we go. Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. One more, Lori.
Lorraine, you better take a few.
I thought that was your girlfriend. There you go. Do you want to take, oh. Nice.
Nope, my mom.
Here's a pin, and congratulations.
Great job. Great job. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that brings us to our presentation this evening. Mr. Legan?
All right, good evening, Dr. Barnes, Mr. Snyder, Mayfield Board of Education. 5 years ago, Mayfield High School embarked on a mission, and that is to personalize the educational experience for all kids. We knew that we had to get away from the traditional model of schooling and really recognize students as individuals, rather than treating them as all the same as the entire class of whether it's 2022 or an entire Algebra 2 class. We recognize that everyone learns differently at a different pace, and we need to make sure that we customize this educational approach for all students. This is why we develop learning modalities. I'm excited to share that starting next year, we are going to have the option program for all students, or at least available for all students in grades 9 through 12. So it's taken a long time to get here, but we want to be able to give students choice. Along with that, last year we presented to you an intervention plan that we put together for students systematically. Our student support team made up of school counselors, psychologists, administrators, teachers alike. We know that we need to support students not only academically, but social emotionally. And with that, as we said in the video, it's about really creating well-rounded individuals. And with that are the soft skills that we know that we need to address in order to make them successful. One of those soft skills that we are going to talk about today is a soft skill of empathy. And I applaud our two science teachers who are going to come up here and present, Bob Friel and Melissa Mcgoots. They have implemented this soft skill of empathy into their daily classroom setting, into some of the extracurriculars that they offer. But we know in the long run, our students are going to be better people, and that's what this is all about. So with that, I want to call up Bob Friel and Melissa Mcgoots.
Well, first of all, thank you, Jeff, for the introduction, but also thank you when we walked in your office 5 years ago with some ideas that were not conventional, for allowing us to take some risks with our students in putting them in positions that took them out of their comfort zone, but in turn have already started to produce just results that we never see in a traditional classroom. So thank you for taking that step too, Jeff. Melissa and I are here to discuss some of our efforts, both inside the classroom and beyond, that have been able to just encourage our students to grow, especially with those who are different from us as global citizens, which sometimes meant connecting with people on the other side of the globe, but sometimes it meant connecting with people who are just very different from them in our own district. When we went to meet with Jeff about some of our ideas, it coincided with when this paw print was kind of unveiled. And we were so excited that one of the key components was that we wanted our graduates to leave our district as global citizens. And for many of us, it was kind of like, okay, well, what does that mean? How do we implement this? How does that look? And a lot of our ideas came from just past experiences we were lucky to have. I know personally, where I went to high school, they offered opportunities to go outside of Ohio, whether it was to Appalachia or another country, to work with those who were less fortunate. And colleges we went to also offered programs like that in the summer, where you could kind of expand that comfort zone. And even for myself, my first teaching placement was in a very rural area in East Africa, where I still think about weekly about just lessons. And those are things that we just saw, if we could offer those to our students, it would just be so impactful, because you just can't replicate those. But these programs didn't exist in many public high schools. They existed in some high schools around, but we just didn't find that opportunity existing in many. So we were trying to develop something for these students. And 1 year, it's actually 3 years ago, Kaylee was actually in this class. One of the first days of class, we were asking the students some questions, just trying to get to know them. And we knew we had a pretty diverse class. And one of the questions was, what are some of the other languages you all speak at home? And we kind of figured there might be 4 or 5 others. 32 languages. And that was just from the 100 students I have, not counting the countless other students. Everything from Uzbek to Spanish to Greek, American Sign Language, Bangla, dialects I'd never even heard of. And that was just from 100 students. So we exist in this district with tremendous diversity. But it's also up to us as teachers and administrators and leaders to use that as an opportunity. How can we use this to develop this tremendous strength that we have? And when we thought about, what does this global citizenship mean? A lot of the qualities that we developed with other teachers and we saw as important, and some of the soft skills that Jeff mentioned, were things like, how do we put students in positions to develop empathy? It's not something you can teach. It's something you have to experience and feel. How do we enable dialogue to take place when someone looks at something from an entirely different view? And how you actually listen to why that view exists, even if it's different from yourself. How do you start looking outward and how it affects other people? And then really, most importantly, how do you get students out of their comfort zone, out of their Mayfield bubble and into the growth zone, where they experience that growth, and through that growth they start to become leaders and just gain that confidence, which when they get their diploma, that's the global citizenship that we're looking for our Mayfield graduates. So in developing, in trying to find a program that fit our unique district, it was challenging, because programs would exist, but it was a challenge to find a program that allowed students to enter that dialogue with other cultures, that would be open to students coming from a variety of ethnic, religious, different backgrounds, and would kind of cater to that. But luckily, we were able to find a program that could kind of match that. And We also found a tremendous interest in our students 4 years ago in wanting to experience that. So we partnered with an organization called International Samaritan, who had experience dealing with public institutions. They had led service immersion trips with the University of Michigan's Business School, the honors program at University of Toledo. But we were the first public high school that they partnered with. So it was very exciting both for them and for us. And Melissa's going to tell you a little bit about how this first service immersion trip went when we took 17 other students down to Guatemala City, Guatemala.
So before we even encountered, going and jumping on a plane, we prepared the students. We wanted to make sure they knew what they were getting into, and just to kind of build these skills so they could cope and really get the most out of what we were experiencing. So, we met probably several times with the students, did some team building activities, but also, allowed them to really, think to themselves, who are they as individuals, but who are they as a Mayfield family? And just knowing that and taking that along with them as they go into a very different community. And as Bob mentioned before, we did partner with International Samaritan. They, what they brought to the table was these relationships that they had fostered, and that's really the key thing. We have nothing if we're just going into Guatemala trying to see people, meet them. It was these relationships that they had already built that really we had the privilege of going in and sharing, what they had already established. That was just like a real privilege. We're just going to take you through a couple of things that happened on the trip. So this first activity, this budget activity, was probably the first thing that we did. And just, you'll notice that the series of activities all come back to those ideas of what, global citizens should be as we build these skills. And so, the kids were given, the equivalent of $6.50 and a very long list of items that a family in Guatemala would need just to take care of their family. And it was a challenge. It was hard. They would come and this is all we have. No, you have to at least try and get everything on this list. And, it really gave them gained a lot of perspective of just, wow, this is the struggle of a family. What am I going to have to do? Do I have to coordinate with someone to make sure we get a couple of eggs? And they really got a lot out of that activity. And we were really, really, we were able to go from that location right into the homes of these families, and another very large privilege. The families that we were visiting, they work in the garbage dump. And what that means is they are probably the lowest status people that you will find when you visit Guatemala. They live in extreme poverty. So just to walk in there was just it kind of took your breath away. And for students to experience that was very, very big. But the one thing that really, we took away, and a student had mentioned this when we did a little bit of reflection later on, just said, wow, they were sharing so much about their daily lives, about their families living in this space, and wow, every single one of those people talked about how much they enjoy their life, the joy they find in every day, and just an immense amount of gratitude. And that was just probably one of the most impactful parts of the trip, was just hearing how they took away from seeing such a crazy impoverished place, but coming away with that. A couple of the other things, we visited the garbage dump so they could see firsthand where the people were working, and really just to see the pretty dire conditions. There's obvious environmental things that we talked about alongside this, air quality and water quality, and just the exposure that people get from being and sifting through this trash. The average person who works in one of these settings is 35 years old. And so just to, just really take that in. We were fortunate to visit an after-school program, Paso a Paso. So this was really neat. The kids were able to meet their peers of Guatemala, their age group, and practice their Spanish skills. But also really get to see that, wow, we're not so different, even though you live here. You don't, you might be of a different socioeconomic status, but really connect on a level that wow, they just. It was very cool to see, even though there was a little bit of a language barrier, they were trying their best to speak in the variety of languages, but just really embrace seeing a person for who they are and kind of just holding space for them, which was very cool. We also visited the nursery, which was actually located right near the garbage dump. So you could actually look out the window and see, these children, their parents are working over there. And this was another opportunity for, at least for me, to practice my really rudimentary Spanish, but also to see that, language doesn't come from just speaking. There's body language you can read. There's being with a person, especially like when you're with toddlers, just really embracing them and just noticing, we're all so similar but different at the same time. A couple fun pictures. And then finally, we also went to an elementary school where, we did do a little bit of labor. They had us working in I'm just going to put these down, I've been using these. We were working on building part of the playground. We also taught some English lessons, but really the magic happened and the connection happened when we really just like played with the kids and got to talking with them. So much of this experience was less of the, hey, we're here to help, and it's more like I'm here to hold space with you and really acknowledge who you are as a person. It's more fun times. Cool. And really, here's our whole group right here. And, what you're not seeing in the pictures is really all of the behind the scenes. At the end of each day, we would do a lot of deep reflecting. Students would spend time individually just kind of taking in the day. But then we would also meet in small groups and share out what had happened and just processing. And just, it's those elements that I think that when you start to puzzle in these really, really deep experiences and how they can help build the rest of your life, that was really a really big piece, in my opinion. Right. Do you want to take it from here?
Sure. Well, as impactful as that trip was for our students, if there was a negative to it, it was that we only were able to take 17. There were almost 50 students who applied. So we had to say no to students who wanted to also partake in this. So we went back to Jeff and said, Jeff, if we have staff that's willing to facilitate this, can we expand? And we took a risk to have 2 trips the following year. One that was to go to a different country of Kingston, Jamaica, more of an urban area, and a second one to go back, but more of a rural area in Guatemala. We filled both trips again. I mean, the momentum was building, and the trips were getting prepared, and that's when COVID came, and we had to cancel them. And the next year, our ambassadors graduated. They weren't able to kind of spread that word to the next group. We weren't able to safely have another trip. So initially, it was very frustrating. Like what's going on here? But in doing that, we also found that we had to kind of look more deeply. Are there ways to create these types of experiences within our district? We're never going to be able to take the entire district on experiences like this. So how can we create experiences in our own classrooms? So we just wanted to share a couple examples that we found that were effective. One of them happened in our engineering course. And there's our student of the month as well. We were struggling because of the pandemic to find activities that were safe. We ended up partnering with one of the leaders in education for students with physical disabilities in the area of Youth Challenge, and started looking at the mechanics of some of their equipment for those with disabilities. But we learned also that they have an adult group that's been participating in the Paralympics, and they have a Paralympic sport of boccia, which kind of is like the adapted sport of bocce ball. And one of their leaders said, right now our adults are having difficulty with their equipment, and it's really expensive. They're looking for adaptations. Would you like to partner? So we took our class, and we started Zooming with 3 of the members of the Paralympic team, Sean, Sarah, and Bob. And the journal entries, we had the engineering students journal after each time just to kind of reflect in addition to doing the math and the science. And it was very interesting. The initial entries focused more on the differences. Oh, that must be so hard to not be able to move their limbs or have, full movement. It must be frustrating. And it kind of looked at, oh, we have this ability and they have a disability. But as the second and third and the fourth Zoom sessions went, it went from our students here and the Youth Challenge members here to a collaboration, to a dialogue, where to the point where Sean, who needed the use of a communication board to communicate, was basically telling students like Kaylee, hey, your design's no good, this isn't gonna work. Like, this is, and in a respectful way, but in a way that said, no, we need to make this work. So, I mean, ultimately, they ended up, the culmination of the project, after going through the designs, go to the next one too, they came all the way, and we were able to meet the participants all the way at the high school. That's Michael Delp. Also working with Sean, we played a nice game of bocce. But the beauty of this was it went from acknowledging differences to seeing, no, there's worth in both pieces, and both groups could grow from those differences. So that was just one of the examples that we saw in our normal classrooms, standard, more conventional classrooms.
All right, so I teach environmental science, regular in AP, and so I'm fortunate to be able to teach, the biological sciences, chemistry, but also social science comes in. So with that, we do talk a lot about, who we are as people, but, I make it a point at the beginning each school year to to open the floor and just be like, we have to be good listeners in here. In order for us to understand our decision making and how it impacts the environment, we need to be open to people that are different from us. And so just a couple of ways that I do this in my class, we do a lot of case studies and current events, and just that way we can understand how communities are impacting the environment, and also identify which communities are experiencing higher rates of exposure to environmental harm. But then also really see how different stakeholders can in fact work together to improve conditions. And this is a little picture of that. I do this at the beginning of every year, where everybody's working together to transport this egg. They usually don't know it's boiled and hard-boiled egg until the end, and they're like, wait, what? We were like moving so slow. But just things like this, and a lot of personal reflection, just to see how we're individually impacting the environment and working on strategies and reflecting on how everybody can be better as we move forward and making improvements.
And following up on what Jeff said about our students in the option, currently all the juniors are enrolled in a service learning course that's anchored on the United Nations Goals for Sustainable Development, where all of our juniors choose one of those goals on which to focus, whether it be zero hunger, or gender equality, or access to a quality education. And from there, they also choose a placement. Some of them are downtown. Others are within the district. We had students working at Lander today with some of our more disadvantaged students there. Also, some students who have been identified at the middle school. So again, working within our district to make our own students so where you don't need to go across the globe to find those that need some assistance. We had students at the food pantry at Our Savior Lutheran Church this last Saturday. So just building those connections and helping us also realize that there are many opportunities close to home as well. Here are just some of the things going on in our own district right now. Our construction trades students in the option have been building these small learning libraries as well. And finally, just kind of to bring it full circle, we've maintained our connections with International Samaritan despite not being able to travel with them. And we've continued to Zoom using technology to connect. There's some individuals from Ethiopia. And there was actually a women's empowerment group that formed. Some of the juniors and senior young women in our program have been doing book studies with the women in their community as well. So just finding more creative ways, whether it's to experience what it's like to carry water for a mile, or just to Zoom about different scenarios. So, so this is definitely an evolving process, but we've been encouraged by ways we can connect both in the classroom and beyond. So where we're at right now is we're still going to try to do something out of the classroom this summer, staying a little closer to home, but still going out of their comfort zone, taking 14 students to Northeast Ohio, down into a more urban environment, partnering with agencies downtown and doing an urban plunge with some of our high school students. So, in summary, we think we're getting there. I mean, we're trying to provide opportunities for that empathy building, for that dialogue to take place. But we really hope to continue to expand, including more teachers, to involve this in their lessons as we grow. So, any questions?
No, it was great.
Fabulous. I really like the way that you guys are celebrating diversity and looking at the things that are common between us, regardless of what the external part may look like. It's awesome.
Thank you for your continued dedication to students trying to expand their experiences. We talked last night at one of our community meetings about our students not just being consumers of content, but producers. And certainly that deep and authentic experience that you guys are providing for them is making that a reality. So thank you.
All right, that moves us to the section of our agenda, which is community communications. This is a session that is to be informational versus interactional. And what we usually ask is for people to let us know if they would like to add an item to the agenda. No one had called us to let us know or notified us to let us know that they would like to add an agenda item. However, we do have one individual who would like to speak to an agenda item, which is Ashley Blanco. And I believe, Ms. Blanco, you've done this before, so.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to set the timer. Unfortunately,
Oh, you timing me?
I'm going to have time in 5 minutes. I apologize.
It's all right. I practiced. Huh?
Bear with me too.
Oh, okay.
And then I will point and I will give you a signal at 30
You,
seconds.
okay, you let me start first. Should I go?
Thank you.
My name is Ashley Blanco, and I live at 6087 Williamsburg Drive in Highland Heights. And I really don't want to do this again. But when I received this letter, it's right here, from the high school, and also saw on your agenda that we're going to continue with the virtue signaling of masking our children indefinitely, I thought it was important to address both this letter and the school board's various and inconsistent reasons that you've given for your rationale behind implementing and keeping the mask mandate. But I will start with the letter because it's relevant. This letter reads in part, quote, "Your child has met the excessive absence threshold of 38 or more hours absent with or without an excuse in a school month or 65 hours in a school year," unquote, which is 10 days of school for anybody who's counting. Now, just so we're clear, none of my child's absences have been unexcused. I, as his mother, have called him off of school when he wasn't feeling well. I believe that is what the school has asked us to do when our children were exhibiting any symptoms of COVID. The letter continues, quote, "Missing school, whether for an excused absence or unexcused reasons, disrupts a student's education," unquote. I mean, no kidding. You're telling me when children aren't in school, it disrupts their education? But when you guys force them into a 10-day quarantine, that's okay. And when you make them go remote for months at a time, that's acceptable. But you made that decision. And when a parent makes that decision to not send their child to school, then we get letters about meetings to discuss excessive absences. It seems as though the school district has a lot of issues with parents making decisions for their children. And the last part of this letter is my favorite part. Please call the guidance office and ask to speak to your son's counselor if you would like to talk about how to improve attendance. And I would love to talk about how to improve attendance. And how about you get rid of the mask mandate and all of your COVID restrictions, because that would help improve it for my son. I'm sure you've all guessed my children have mask exemptions, and they don't wear masks in school, except for the child that this letter is about. You have to wonder how a kid who always wears his mask in school was sick so much for the first semester. It's just a mystery, isn't it? You want to know why he wears his mask in school? He's afraid not to. You want to know why he's absent so many days? He's afraid to go to school. When he was sneezing and coughing, he doesn't want to get yelled at. Excuse me. He doesn't want to break the rules, but it sounds like to me that even though he's followed the rules, he's going to be punished for having anxiety, which I doubt very much is going to help his anxiety. You do realize that you're helping to create an entire generation of children with anxiety issues, the likes of which we have never seen. So much so that the American Academy of Pediatrics has declared a national emergency in child and teen mental health. The American Academy of Pediatrics president said, quote, "Children's mental health is suffering. Young people have endured so much throughout this pandemic, and while much of the attention is often placed on physical health consequences, we cannot overlook the scaling mental health crisis facing our patients," unquote. And so to touch on the actual mandate itself, first we have it because of the survey, then we have it because of quarantine guidelines, and now we have it because of escalating cases and increased transmission of Omicron. Even though we all know that the CDC director just admitted to the fact that if you have a positive COVID test, that could be from COVID from 90 days before. It's kind of like they're just making this crap up at this point. I just wonder what the next excuse will be. It has been 674 days since we were told that it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It's the longest 2 weeks of my life. You don't comply your way out of tyrannical government overreach. Someone has to stand up and say no. And I have completely given up any hope that it will be any of you. I want to seek first to understand and then to be understood. But nothing you are doing makes any logical sense. Since when do we treat a cold virus with communism? And so my final question is, how do you begin with the end in mind if there's never an end to begin with? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we move to President's announcements. I'm sorry?
Sue, I think Ashley submitted a paper for me to speak. I was running late.
I'm sorry you weren't here, so if you are not here at the beginning of the meeting, you cannot ask somebody to submit for you. You have to be here.
I was 3 minutes late.
I'm sorry.
My son off at basketball.
I'm sorry.
Typical keeping the public quiet. Are you here for us?
Next, we move to President's announcements, and I don't have any at this time, so I will pass to Dr. Barnes.
None at this time.
All righty, so that moves us to board committee reports, and before we go into reports, I just wanted to outline the fact that we have realigned our board committees to align with the pillars of education. So that we have a presiding chair and another board member and 2 administrators who will be parts of those committees. And those committees will be meeting a couple of times a year. Those committees are interactive times for communication, and we have decided to do that in order to make things a little bit easier as far as that type of communication is concerned. So are there any board members who have committee reports this evening?
Good evening. Good evening. As the newest member of the Mayfield Board of Education, I am the presiding chair this year for the Community Relations and Family Partnerships. And under that group is the Mayfield Schools Foundation. And I would just like to announce the Mayfield Schools Foundation will be holding their second annual event at Topgolf. This event launched last year in April as a nice segue coming out into the spring. But just to let you know to please save the date for Sunday, April 10th, 2022, from 12 to 3 p.m. The swing and party event will take place. Again, there will be bays available to purchase. There will be raffle prizes, silent auction items, and this will all be done via the Mayfield Schools Foundation website, mayfieldschoolsfoundation.org. That's where tickets can be purchased, and more information regarding this event will be forthcoming. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to other board business. Item A, the mask policy modification. Motion to approve? Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes. Next, we move to the school calendars for 2022-2023, 23-24, and 24-25.
So moved.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
And Ms. Grosek.
Yes. And under the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through N.
So moved.
Just a little slow.
It's all right.
I am now ready.
Then roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes. And under other superintendent's business, we have the certified additional training.
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes. And the approval of the 22-23 high school course catalog.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes. Next, we have a memorandum of understanding for the Ohio Online Learning Program.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes. Next, we have the College Credit Plus Primary Partnership Agreement with Lakeland Community College for 2022-23.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes. And the 2022 Niagara Falls, New York trip for Mayfield Middle School and 8th grade students.
So moved.
Second.
Very good.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
And Ms. Grosek.
Yes. Next, we move to the treasurer's report. Financial statements for December 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes. Next, we have financial transactions.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Grace, did you want to say something on that one?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
I thought I was further down. I thought it was under donations.
I think the next
It's-
one is the creation of the scholarship. Because
Okay.
This is the KISS
Yeah.
scholarship, yes.
I'm sorry. Trying to keep along here. I just wanted to add one personal comment with regards to the Daniel Kish scholarship. My son actually took music lessons from Daniel Kish at Matters Music, as I know so many other band students did. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and nice to see that they continue his legacy. Thank you.
Roll call?
Actually, I'd also like to indicate that we're creating a service immersion fund. I think that kind of parlays directly into what we heard this evening, that Mr. Friel and Ms. Mcgoots was talking about. So this is a tremendous, I think, step forward. And Mr. Tressi asked the question if the district paid for that Guatemala trip, and actually the students fundraised. And so now they're looking to create ways in which they can fundraise for the next service immersion opportunities. So I just like to.
Awesome. With that, roll call.
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grossack.
Yes. And next, we move to donations.
Jumped ahead. My apologies. So moved. Thank you. Second. Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grossack.
Yes. And under other treasurer's business, we move to the mileage rate change for 2022.
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grossack.
Yes. And the 2022-23 preschool typical peer tutor tuition.
Second.
I would simply like to indicate that this is the same rate for the fourth consecutive year. We're trying to be thoughtful as we come out of COVID and the impact on our families. So we just elected to request, recommend that it remain the same as it has. I'd just like to indicate that.
I will also add that having granddaughters in preschool, it's very competitive. Roll call.
Mr. Hess. Yes. Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro. Yes. Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grossack.
Yes. Next, we have the authorization of the refinancing of the 2015C certificates of participation if financially advantageous to the district.
So moved.
I would simply like to indicate on this one that we're trying to take advantage of current market rates, just like folks are that are into this wild housing market. Money is cheap. So we believe that we can save $2 million in overall net cost over the life of this debt, which will then create opportunities to access the freed up PI levy proceeds to then reinvest in our district assets. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity.
Excellent. Roll call.
Mr. Hess? Yes. Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro? Yes. Mrs. Grieve?
Yes.
And Ms. Grossack.
Yes. Next, we move to the construction manager at risk. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Roll call.
This is the elevator for Wildcat Sport and Fitness, and I would like to indicate that those, the construction of that elevator is actually being paid from the Wildcat Sport and Fitness proceeds through the membership and what other kind of programming that they can offer in that site. So we're really excited about this, and that construction will begin, Mr. Nedlick, I believe, this spring, correct? February, as in next month. And the elevator shaft will be placed
Early spring.
in the courtyard between the wood gym and the media center, in that courtyard there. It's really the only place to put it.
Very nice. I know a lot of
That'll work.
people are really looking forward to that.
How's our membership been holding up pretty well coming back from the past 2 years?
I can't speak if it's really, I think it's a level off as far as participation, but I think as folks are understanding now, if they can get in there and they can get access to the site, we haven't seen the drop off, so we haven't really been charging anybody, because we've been trying to, they're not getting the full access of hours, and it's been a little bit of hit or miss, so, but it was very robust pre-COVID.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Roll call, sorry.
Mr. Hess? Yes. Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve?
Yes.
Ms. Grossack?
Yes. Next, we have the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 15th, 2021. Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Grossack, before you take the vote, roll call, I've spoken to with Mrs. Grieve, and since she wasn't a member of the school board, I've asked her to abstain on this action, just so the audience understands that she was not a member, so therefore,
She can't verify.
she really can't verify, yes.
Perfect. Roll call.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve? Abstain?
Abstain.
Thank you. Ms. Grossack?
Yes. And the minutes of the organizational meeting of January 4th, 2022, and the special meeting of January 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosset.
Yes. Next, we have the membership of the Ohio Education Policy Institute. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosset.
Yes. And last but not least.
Ms. Gross, I do have one thing before we adjourn.
Yes.
Yesterday, we received a letter from Ms. Nancy Ivancic. I wanted to thank her for everything she's done for the Mayfield School and the health and wellness, Wildcat Health and Wellness. She came in here from the beginning. I don't think we had a plan, and she came in here and did a lot of work. She did a lot of great work for our employees. She did a lot of great work for our employees' families, for our students and staff. And I want to just thank her for that and wish her best of luck in what she's going to do. Mr. Hughes had sent her a letter, and I asked him if I could quote some of what he wrote to her. He's very eloquent in how he writes, so I figured what I read from what he said is a lot better than what I could convey here. So he agreed, and he said that he has followed her time here at Mayfield and watched the Wildcat Health and Wellness Center evolve into what it is today. Thank you for your vision and leadership. It is a model envied by some districts and copied by others. You formulated what we have without a guidebook. I understand your feelings, and you would like to feel more at home being a family medicine provider. Thank you for all that you have done at Mayfield, and your work here will continue because of your efforts. You will be missed not only for your work that you have done, but also the friendly, engaging, and empathetic way you have interacted with all who have come to you. So I want to convey that from Mr. Hughes and myself. Nancy's been great whenever I went in there, and everything I hear from anybody that's talked about her says how great she is working with everybody. So I wish her the best.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order?
I'd like to give a shout out to our buildings and grounds people, the work they did over the snowstorm. I've been there for many years. I used to do that type of work, and this was a heavy wet snow to get the driveways, parking lots, and sidewalks ready for school. They did a phenomenal job, and thank you.
And for our service departments in our communities.
Well,
yes.
The roads ready for lots of the roll.
Indeed.
Amen.
Main sidewalks cleared up. So everybody did a great job with that.
It saddened the students, however, that there was not a snow day.
Of
So
course. Of course.
maybe. Anything else? Then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
These are awfully fast, so bear with me 1 second.
Oh, you're slow.
I am slow tonight, I know. Small words, short sentences.
Roll call.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosset.
Yes. And that, as they say, is a wrap.